If you've been a prescriber of the channel for a long enough time, you'll know that I preach about reading quite often. I have tons of videos that discuss the variety of benefits that reading can bring into your life, but I haven't ever really shared with you the books that I think you should read. So in today's episode, I'm going to share with you guys what I consider to be the 6 most important books that you really should consider reading. But before we get started, I'd like to thank Audible for sponsoring this episode. For those of you that don't know what Audible is, it's a platform where you can listen to audio versions of books. I personally love Audible and have been using them for years because it allows me to get the benefit of reading while I'm doing my chores or while I'm commuting to places. Audible has by far the largest selection of books out there, and they also have shows, news, and even comedy. Go to audible.com/improvementpill or text the word ImprovementPill to 500/500 to get an exclusive 30-day free trial and a book of your choice for absolutely free. I suggest you pick one of the 6 books that I'm going to talk about today because they are all available on Audible. The first book on my list is actually the first self-improvement book I ever read, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I must have been 17 or 18 when I first picked up this book. Now I'm sure many of you have already heard of this book. It's probably the most recommended self-improvement book out there, and there's a reason for this. See, what this book does is it teaches you simple little rules to keep in mind for social interactions. I don't want to spoil the book for you, but there are certain things that you can do that will drastically increase your ability to befriend people. The book essentially teaches you how to become more likable, and that's one of the most powerful skills out there, because if you can get people to like you, then things will start to go your way. You'll find that you have an easier time making friends, getting jobs, making sales, and one of the great side effects of all of this is that you will be much happier. And here's something to think about. When you learn how to make friends, you're essentially learning how to make others happy. And this is one of the most fulfilling feelings out there, the ability to spread joy. And that's what How to Win Friends and Influence People teaches you. The next book on my list is also related to social interactions. What Is Everybody Saying by Joe Navarro. Navarro was an ex-FBI agent whose specialty was reading people. He passes on his knowledge in this book in an extremely easy to read format. In fact, I was able to finish this book in just 2 days. Now, this book is very important because body language plays a crucial role in social interactions. This is a must read for anyone that feels like they aren't performing that well socially. There's so many of us that feel awkward or don't know what to do during social gatherings, and I believe a big reason for this is because of our exposure to the internet. Many of us have grown up in an environment where we socialize with people more online than in real life. We're in a society where we use social media platforms like Facebook or Snapchat more than we spend time speaking with people in person, and this has caused many of us to lose our ability to read body language well. Reading body language is an extremely important skill because you can tell what a person is feeling by looking at their body language. During a conversation, you're never always going to say the right things. You're bound to have jokes or comments that others don't find that entertaining, especially if it's your first time meeting them. Now, if your ability to read body language isn't sharp, you'll often find yourself saying the wrong things without even knowing. And this can easily make you come off as more annoying or repulsive, and you will find yourself having a much harder time making friends or establishing romantic relationships because you can't tell what you're doing wrong. Being able to read body language is like being able to see what answers on a test you got wrong. If you don't have the ability to see the right answers, then you'll never know what to adjust. The next book on my list is Models by Mark Manson. Now, this book is an interesting book. To be honest, it kind of comes off as a sleazy pickup book, but the core lesson it teaches you is actually incredibly valuable. You know that piece of advice that people throw around, oh, just be yourself? Well, this book actually teaches you why and how to do just that, because there's so many of us that feel like we need to do certain things or say certain things to impress people. We need to like certain sports, we need to wear certain clothes, etc. Models teaches you how, by just sticking to what you love, saying what's on your mind, and quote unquote just being yourself, will actually get more people to like you. It also happens that this concept will drastically improve your romantic relationships by a lot. Now, I know it sounds kind of vague, but trust me, there's a reason why I've read this book 3 times over, because that core lesson is just that important. Now, the 4th book on this list is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. It's the only book on wealth that I have on this list, and there's a reason for that. Rich Dad, Poor Dad teaches you a very simple mindset that will quite literally change your life. It's a mindset that makes a lot of sense, but no one ever talks about it. It's not taught in school, it's not talked about in the media. My friends, my parents, none of them knew about it. I know I'm beating around the bush by not telling you what this mindset is, but I don't want to spoil the book for you. It's honestly a super easy read, it's a short book, and I was able to finish it in just one day. And I actually do attribute a lot of my success to this book. This simple mindset that I keep talking about is definitely something that I still think about quite often. It's the reason I've made certain choices in my life, and it's without a doubt one of the main reasons I'm doing what I do right now. If you want to be rich one day, you have to read this book. The fifth book on my list is The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. This was actually one of the books that I used to build the TAME course. This book is a must read because it teaches you about how habits work. See, our destiny, what we accomplish in life, is ultimately determined by what sort of habits we have. If we have a bunch of bad habits, then chances are we're not going anywhere anytime soon. Duhigg breaks down exactly how habits work and what you can do to change them. If you've watched the TAME course and you're working on changing the habits in your life, then this is definitely one of the books you have to read. The more you understand why and how your addiction works, the inner workings of all habits, then the more things you can do to make sure you overcome it. A very, very important book for anyone that wants to change their life. The sixth and final book on this list is a very special book. It's a book that I've read 4 times over. It's a book that I've gifted to over 20 people. It's a book that quite literally changed my life. It's The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And I'll be honest, the premise of this book is pretty weird. Eckhart was a man in his late 20s who became fed up with life and claims to have spent a month just sitting on a park bench in a state of bliss. He talks about the root of all suffering, why so many of us feel miserable about our lives, why we like to argue with our loved ones, why we can't find happiness. The book is written in a rather odd format. Every couple of pages there's a prompt for you to set the book down and think about what you just read. I had many breakthroughs the first time I ever read this book. It drastically changed the way I view the world, and I can proudly say that it's made me into a happier person. And that's the reason I love gifting this book out so much, because I want to spread that joy. And these are what I consider to be the 6 best self-improvement books out there. I highly suggest you check them out because each and every single one of these books has drastically changed my life for the better. If you want to purchase any of these books, refer to my reading list, which I will link to in the description box below. And if you'd like to listen to any of these books, remember that you can receive an audiobook for absolutely free via Audible, which I also link to in the description box below. Thank you for watching and stay tuned.